Memphis police released video clips of body cam footage and surveillance video showing the moments that ultimately led up to Tyre Nichols' death. 5 police officers dealt the beating that lasted several more minutes following a traffic stop turned deadly on January 7th. Paramedics whisked the 29-year-old to the hospital, but he died 3 days later from injuries he sustained. Here to talk about this violent encounter with law enforcement is Jeff Charles, host of a Fresh Perspective podcast and a contributor for Newsweek. Welcome, Jeff.
Thanks. Great to be with you, Batya.
So, this is such a hard thing to watch and such a hard thing to comprehend. These 5 police officers just brutally beating this, not a big guy, for we don't know what. I think for me, the thing that most stood out was there's a lot of footage of Tyre Nichols running. And it's so hard to see someone in a normal situation. A person running like that should be calling for help from the police. But it was the police he was running from. Talk us through this, how to make sense of this horrific, brutal footage.
Yeah, I mean, it is very hard to make sense of it, Batya. I mean, from where I sit, this is what happens when there is a distinct lack of accountability in a police department. I mean, there are some police departments that are better at making sure that officers don't engage in this behavior. But unfortunately, in this case, an American citizen was abused by 5 police officers, and that's putting it lightly. I've been seeing some people give him flack for running away. But what people don't realize is that when you're in that situation, if you watch the first part of that video, they ran up on his car with guns drawn, yelling, and then pulling him out. At that point, you don't know what they're going to do to you. So he ran, and then they caught up to him later, and then that's when the beating happened. And, I'm glad that the Memphis Police Department acted swiftly when it came to relieving them of their duties, doing an investigation, and then charging them. I think that's the way to handle these situations.
Yeah, when they had him the first time, and to be clear, no one has later been able to demonstrate that the stop was proper or why even have it in the first place, or what went wrong, that he was driving his car wrong that caused this in the first place. But then they are giving him clearly conflicting instructions. They have him on the ground, and I'm listening to them say, put your hands behind your back. But one of the officers is like holding his wrist in front of him, so he can't. There's no way he can put his hands behind his back without pulling, trying to get out of the grip of one of the other officers. And he's got, he has 5 different people barking contradictory instructions at him. So it's really like a no-win situation for him. If you have a mindset, well, he should just do what the police tell him to do, and then he would be live. There was no way to do that here because they were giving him contradictory instructions, and they were jostling him. They had him on the ground. And then the second encounter, after they catch up to him, they pass him around, throwing punches. He's kicked while he's on the ground. He's punched in the face. It's so disgusting. So that should be, and it was all caught on camera, right? Their body cams were active. So I think this is probably going to terrify a lot of people. This is what they do when they know they were being watched. What would they do if the cameras were off?
Yeah, people keep comparing this to Rodney King, and one of the reasons why Rodney King was so pivotal is that not everybody had a phone or a video camera to be able to record these things. And so when it came to light, it was very shocking. Nowadays, everybody has a camera, and you're right. If they're willing to do this when they know their body cams are on, then, what more are these officers doing? This Scorpion unit to which these officers belonged already had two complaints against them with the police department. And I'm not sure, obviously there wasn't enough done about that, but this is an issue. And again, it comes down to accountability. People talk about the culture in the police department. That's a factor that needs to be addressed. But if officers believe that they can engage in this behavior without seeing any type of punishment or repercussions, then what's to stop them?
The victim here obviously is a black man. We talk a lot, the media talks a lot about the police misconduct having a racially discriminatory or racially disparate impact. Sometimes those statistics get pushed back from people saying that it doesn't necessarily reflect bias. It reflects the communities where crime is more likely to happen, that sort of thing. In this case, you have the perpetrators, the officers are all black as well. Does that complicate how we talk about race with respect to policing? What are your thoughts on that subject?
Well, when people talk about it being an issue of racism or systemic racism, they're talking more about the system than about the individuals. So the officers being black wouldn't really factor into that equation. Also, studies have actually shown that black officers are more likely to be harsh on black civilians as well. So that also plays into it. When it comes to the Memphis Police Department, I'm not sure how much racial bias figures into it. I haven't been able to look into that yet. That very well could be an issue. But there are also other factors that contribute to this as well. I mean, there are other factors that are unfortunately common in a lot of police departments where officers are encouraged to not police their own in a sense. It's hard to fire some of these officers if they show signs of being abusive, and then afterwards, if they're not convicted of any crimes, or if at the very most they lose their jobs, then they don't really have a reason not to do these things.
Well, the deadly incident drew nationwide anger against what is yet another brutal show of force by the police, a problem that, as you note, Jeff, disproportionately impacts Black Americans. And former President Barack Obama and Michelle Obama joined the call for police reform to be made a priority. On Saturday, they tweeted, quote, "The vicious, unjustified beating of Tyre Nichols and his ultimate death at the hands of 5 Memphis police officers is just the latest painful reminder of how far America still has to go in fixing how we police our streets." I wonder, again, is this an opportunity to take the conversation about police reform, which we so desperately need and which has been a bipartisan conversation, at least since George Floyd's horrific murder, to sort of remove some of the racial component to it, at least from the side of the perpetrators? Is this an opportunity? I mean, I hate to say that about something so tragic, but could this be an opportunity for us to make progress on police reform in a way that was difficult before? What do you think, Jeff?
Well, I hate to go black pill on you, but I agree it is an opportunity. It's an opportunity that we've had many times before, and we don't take it. I mean, the issue gets politicized. You have people on the left wanting to promote a racial narrative and focusing only on the race issue, while people on the right kind of want to dismiss what happened and even, like I said, blame the victim. So everybody's in their corners, everybody's on their teams, everybody's on their tribes, which means that those who want solutions are somewhere in the middle, but they don't get the voice, they don't get the microphones. We do have it. This is a problem that we could fix if we really wanted to. It's just not enough of our leaders are actually invested in having solutions that would actually work.
Yeah, and so far,
what kind
I don't
of solutions?
think. Go ahead, Batya.
Oh, I was just going to ask, Jeff, what solutions would you most want to see tomorrow if somebody gave you the gavel? I mean, what would work? What would work?
If I can wave a magic wand to start, I'd want to get rid of qualified immunity. I'd want to make it easier for police chiefs to fire bad officers when they do exhibit symptoms or signs of being abusive. I would want to invest in community policing. Police officers should be patrolling communities that they actually live in so that people know them, that there's more of an outreach. And I'd want to see more of a hand of the citizenry in determining who is allowed to serve as police officers.
And perhaps better training to know how to de-escalate situations, because this was escalated. Honestly, it was escalated by the police, right? It's like, why do that? Why get it to this point? I'm glad so far that what we've seen, I think, is pretty bipartisan or cross-ideological condemnation. If there are people saying, no, this was just fine, the police didn't do anything wrong, I haven't really heard from them yet. Maybe they're out there, but it sounds like everyone is outraged by this. So I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad to know nobody wants this level of of a lack of accountability from government employees, from people who work for the citizens. This is not, this is not in America or anywhere what we expect our employees, our peacekeepers, to just brutalize someone for no reason. So that's been heartening to see. And thank you so much, Jeff, for tossing out some good ideas for how we can fix policing. We really appreciate hearing from you.
Thanks for having me back on. I appreciate it.
And we'll have more Rising right after this.